Hey, hi, hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Shannon. How you doing? Nice to meet you. I hope you're doing so very well. Today I am actually stealing an idea from Books and Lala. She done a video where she read the 100 books on her TBR and rated them from 1 to 10 on intrigue, and then put them back on her shelves in order of what she's most interested in. So I thought I would do the same. But instead of reading the 200 and something odd books that is on my TBR, I decided to narrow it down to 20 thrillers that are on my shelves, that have been on my shelves for a while, and I would like to see where they fall on most prioritized to least prioritized by reading the first chapter. So it's just going to be a case of me introducing the book to you, and then throughout this week, I will be reading the first chapter of all 20 of these books, telling you how I feel and what they receive on a 1 to 10 rating. And then at the end, I will give you a rundown on what would be my most prioritized to my least prioritized. Let's get right on into this. I have 20 books to introduce to you today, so let's do this. The first book I have here is The Thursday Murder Club by Richmond, Richmond, I was waiting to it again, oh no, Richard Osman, oh no. And this follows a ragtag group of 80-year-olds in a retirement community who stumble upon a murder and they have to try and solve it. That's all I know about this, so I will come back in just 1 second and tell you how I feel about the first chapter of this book. Next, we have The Thursday Murder Club by Richmond. Every fucking time of The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. I gave this a 6. It was a very short first chapter. All we really got was Joyce, who I take it is going to be one of our main POVs, was approached by a woman who asked if someone could survive a certain stab wound. And that is how Joyce heard about the Thursday Murder Club. It was intriguing. It didn't give much more than the synopsis, but it did give us a POV, which I was okay with. So it got a 6 because it did bump up, like, oh, she was a registered nurse and now she is part of a murder club that tries to solve unsolved murders. But it just didn't give that hook that I wanted. But I do think this is going to be like one of those fun thrillers, which is not often that happens. When the Lights Go Out by Mary Kubica, this follows Jess Salone, who realizes that her identity may not be real because the real Jess Salone is, according to official records, she died 17 years ago. So this follows her trying to figure out what the hell her life is and if it's all been a lie and is she in danger or is she not? I don't know. I will come back and tell you what I think. We have When the Lights Go Out by Mary Kubica. The first chapter of this was sad sauce. Extremely sad sauce. Like, she is next to her mum while her mum is on her deathbed. Obviously, in the synopsis, we were told that Jessie Sloan does not know who she is because the original Jessie Sloan, is meant to be dead for 17 years. So the first chapter gave something different than the synopsis, but it was also so sad that I kind of felt like it wasn't so much intriguing me as it was making me sad. And I think I need to be in the mood for something like this. So I gave this a 6 because it did give something more than the synopsis, but it's also a book I feel like that I would need to be in a certain mood to read. Next, we have All the Missing Girls by Megan Miranda. This follows Nicolette Farrell, and her best friend Corinne disappeared like 20 years ago without a trace. Then another woman goes missing, and Nicolette returns to her hometown, and it's told in reverse from day 15 to day 1. And I'm excited to give this a try. Next, we have All the Missing Girls by Megan Miranda. We jump straight in to Nicolette receiving a phone call from her brother saying that he's going to sell their childhood home. She then sees a letter from her father saying that he saw that girl, which I take it is Corinne because she's mentioned in the blurb, like she just vanished without a trace. So that's the only girl that her dad can really be going on about. It's not made clear, but I think he may have like Alzheimer's or or dementia because she keeps referencing the fact that he may not remember. So she packs up, gets ready to go home and find out what her dad is speaking about and help her brother sell this house. Pretty good. Gave it a 7 in intrigue. It gave a little more than the synopsis. Not much, but a little. And it introduced us to the main character, who I think will be a good POV to follow. Next, we have Creep by Jennifer Hillier. This follows a psychology professor. Yes, professor who is having an affair with a younger man, and when she cuts it off, he turns all stalkery. I hope this is a good first chapter because it's given the vibes. Next, we have Creep by Jennifer Hillier. This got a 9. This gave exactly what I thought Jennifer Hillier would. Like, straight away, we follow Professor Tao, Sheila, and she is breaking up with Ethan. She's like, I'm away to get married. Like, we're engaged. We're done. And he's like, okay, whatever. But a bit butthurt. And she's like, you're going to get transferred to a new professor so that we don't have to work professionally together anymore. And he's like, no, 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 no. No, no, no. That ain't happening. If you want to try and push me onto another professor and pretty much ruin all the work that I've done, I'm going to put a video of you getting something put somewhere all over the internet, which would obviously ruin her career. So straight away, we got blackmail. And then another student comes in and asks Sheila if she heard about the girl that went missing, another student, and she was found. She supposedly drowned, but there is rumors going around that she was potentially stabbed. So, first chapter, we have blackmail, we have murder. Like, this is how you get a hook in a thriller. I want to read this immediately. Intrigue, high 9, very high 9. Next, we have The Girls by Lisa Jewell. This is about a neighborhood where everyone is safe, and then a girl shows up in the corner of the garden. No one knows what's happened to her, so they try and figure it out. Next, we have The Girls by Lisa Jewell, and this was a surprise to me because we straight away, like, I was invested because we get a map of the neighborhood of the gardens, which you don't really see in thrillers much. And even though this didn't give more than the synopsis, it did have a great hook. So in this, we follow Pip in the first chapter while her mum had one too many wines at a garden party and is hugging the toilet. She puts her mum to bed and she's waiting for her older sister to come home. When it's 10 o'clock and she's waiting to lock the door, she realizes she can't until she gets her sister. Goes about the garden to find her. She does, and her sister is in a bad way. And it looks like she's been attacked. End of chapter. 8, high on intrigue. It's like a closed door mystery thriller, but instead of a room or a building, it's a community of, it's like a gated community. And I'm like, down for this. 8, prioritized. Next, we have In My Dreams I Hold a Knife. This is a story about 6 friends that return for a school college reunion, and the murder of one of their friends in the past is the subject of speculation. Next, we have In My Dreams I Hold a Knife by Ashley Winstead. This unfortunately got a 6 because the first chapter didn't really give much more than the synopsis. We have our main character, Jessica, and as I'm saying this, this is the second Jessica that's came up in these books. What a common name. And it's funny because I'm pretty sure the Jessica in this book comments on how ordinary her name is and how much it pisses her off. But anyways, I'm totally going off on a tangent. In this, we follow the character Jessica, who has told the reader that she has worked so hard after college to reinvent herself, to become successful. And from what it seems, to have everyone eat their words when she goes back to the reunion. It was fine. Like, she receives the letter, she tells us, like, we're introduced to her. My intrigue didn't go up that much. Like, it was fine. I feel like she'll be an interesting, maybe morally grey character to follow. But again, my intrigue's not huge in this one. which is unfortunate because I know a lot of people love this one. So yeah, like I'll get to it when I get to it, I think, I suppose. We then have Pretty Girls by Karen Slaughter. This is about a family where one of the daughters went missing, and the two sisters are now starting to see resemblances for a new girl that went missing now to their sister disappearing 20 years ago and their search for answers. Next, I have a little confession to make because the next book is Pretty Girls by Karen Slaughter. I've already read this. I actually picked this up intending to read the first chapter for this video. I didn't have quite enough time to do this in like one day, so I had to do this over 2 days. I done it yesterday and today. I originally thought that I was going to start reading the first chapters and filming my reactions earlier on in the week. So I sat down and read the first chapter of this, and then I didn't stop. So this has probably got a 10 in intrigue just because I continued reading and really enjoyed it. I gave it a 5 star. So it's kind of cheating because it means that the 20 thrillers I have are now going to be 19. But I'm just counting this as the top book because I read the first chapter, I continued reading, and I rated it a 5 star. And now I know why everybody bloody talks about this book, and I was not disappointed. Another Ashley Winstead is The Last Housewife. This follows a woman who was in a cult kind of situation in college, and she realizes that one of her friends from college is dead, and she decides to go uncover the truth with a true crime podcaster. In a better turn of events, we have The Last Housewife by Ashley Winstead. This got a 9 on intrigue because the first chapter just kicks off. Like, we follow Shay as she is in her bougie ass house, and she's just listening to a true crime podcast because the host is like an old friend from college, and he brings up the fact that Laurel is dead, which is a friend she had in college, pretty much best friends. And she's starting to feel guilty because she was like, oh, I'm meant to protect her. What the fuck's going on? What's happened? But the reason that Laurel is on this podcast, because the host, Jamie, says, like, normally I'm reporting on murders or unsolved cases. Why am I speaking about suicide? Well, he thinks it's not a suicide because there's defense wounds. And he then mentions that he knew Laurel through a mutual friend, which is Shay. So, like, straight away, I'm like, what happened to Laurel? Is it an actual suicide or is it murder? What happened between Jamie and Shay? Were they like friends or were they like friends? You know, like I have all the questions and I want them answered. So this got a 9 and I can't wait to pick this up. Next, we have The Writing Retreat by Julia Bartz. This is like NaNoWriMo, but a slasher. You have a month to write a full length novel. You get a 7-figure publishing deal at the end of it if you win. But the women that are in this competition slowly start dying. I have high hopes for this one. Next, we have The Writing Retreat by Julia Bart. And I was so hyped for this one because I've heard good things. I don't think I've heard much bad things, to be honest. I think I've only heard good things. But what I have heard has been so intriguing. So this kind of cheated because the first chapter in this, we follow the main character as she goes to a friend's book party, and she is so anxious because she's going to see her old friend Ren. You don't know why they are no longer friends. You don't know why she's so anxious to see her. And you're also in a setting with people that are talking about books and love books. So, like, that's a win right off the bat for me. I'm giving this a 9 on intrigue because I was already intrigued by this premise, and going off of this first chapter, I have so many questions that I want answers to. So this got a 9 and it is like top priority. We then have Home by Kayleen Steed. This follows a woman who escaped a cult, and she is now needing to return to that cult in order to save other people, I believe, and she has to re escape all over again. Next, we have Home by Kayleen Steed, and I was quite surprised by this one because we go straight into chapter one, and in chapter one, we follow a before timeline where our main character is still in this cult, and the dynamics of the cult, and you get a real good feel for what it was like for her. And straight away I was interested because in the synopsis it says that she had already escaped, but in the first chapter we actually got a before timeline where she's still in the cult. I want to know why she has to go back. I want to know why anyone would even go back unless it's like level 10, like there is no other choice. And I want to know why that is. I want to know the circumstances as to why she needs to return to this cult that she desperately tried to get out of, that no one would really want to live in. This got an 8, so I am excited to get to this, which again I'm so happy about because this has turned into a really good experiment where I'm seeing that I'm maybe interested in thrillers that I was lower interested in just by the synopsis and what I've heard. But actually reading the first chapter and creating my own thoughts and opinions has made me hyped for books that I didn't know I was going to be hyped for, which is so fun. We then have All Her Little Secrets by Wanda M. Morris. I believe this follows a woman who is struck horrified when she finds her boss dead with a gunshot wound to his head, and she may be the main suspect. I guess we'll find out. Next, we have All Her Little Secrets by Wanda M. Morris. I am giving this a 5 because there's a prologue where our main character gets sent off to boarding school when she's 14. Then we jump into the first chapter where we pretty much know everything that happens because of the synopsis. The first chapter is essentially the first paragraph of the synopsis. So I already knew everything that happened in the first chapter, which makes my intrigue stay the same. 5. I'm still interested in it. I still want it on my shelves, but I'm not more interested by reading the first chapter, which is unfortunate because I do feel like this is one that I could enjoy, but the first chapter gave nothing that the synopsis didn't. We then have another Karen Slaughter, The Good Girl. No, The Good Daughter. I don't know what this one is about. Charlotte and Samantha's childhoods were destroyed by a terrifying attack on their family home. It left their mother dead, it left their father, a notorious defense attorney, devastated, and it left the family consumed by secrets from that shocking night. I have heard so many good things about Karen Slaughter, so it will be interesting to see where this and Pretty Girls rank on my final list. Next, we have The Good Daughter by Karen Slaughter. This was not a full chapter. Was it this one? Yeah, I think it was this one. So this wasn't a full first chapter because we have like all of this 40 pages and then 28 days later, which is where the first chapter starts. So I read the first 14 pages and it was good. I was interested in it getting right into the beat of the story. So you follow these two sisters. Their house got burnt down because their dad is an attorney who got a murderer out of jail. People didn't like that, so they petrol bombed their house. And now they're living in another place. They're kind of like the town's pariahs because of their dad's work. It was very interesting because even though you knew from the synopsis that they had the attack on their house and that their dad was an attorney, you didn't quite know why the attack happened or what he done as a job. But straight away, the first 14 pages lays it out that they're pariahs in this town because of their dad's job, which I feel is going to entail a lot of secrets and these girls, you know, being privy to information that they probably shouldn't be by just being near their dad. This got a 7 on intrigue. I enjoyed it. It gave me something a little extra than the synopsis did, and I'm intrigued to know more about this family. We then have The Shadow Man by Helen Fields, and he collects his victims, but he does not keep them safe. I believe this is about children who are locked in a flat and they are desperate to escape, but the Shadow Man keeps them locked away and hidden. Um, Sounds spooky. It sounds like it could be thriller, kind of more speculative side. So let's find out. A book that surprised me was The Shadow Man by Helen Fields because this, like, in the synopsis, it says that there is 3 kids locked in a flat and they're scared of the Shadow Man. You don't know if the Shadow Man's real or not. You don't know if it's like a figment of their imagination or folklore or anything. The first chapter in this was completely different from the synopsis. You follow Fergus, who is essentially stalking this woman in her house. And I think he tries to abduct her, but when he has to like hurt her, he then says that he needs to go find someone new and start over again. It's also we're also made aware that he's dying, so like this is what he's choosing to do with his last days. And it was very interesting because I actually had to turn back to the synopsis of this book and make sure that I was reading the book I thought I was, because the first chapter was nothing like I thought it would be, which is why this received an 8 on intrigue, because it completely threw me for a minute. And then I got on board and was like, okay, okay, it's nice to see a first chapter that isn't the synopsis or isn't information I already know, that's different. This was fresh and I liked it, so it got an 8 on intrigue. And I think this is the interesting thing about this experiment, because this was kind of low on my TBR just because I picked it up on a whim. I don't even know how I picked this up. Probably a charity shop. But I picked this up on a whim and it's been on my shelves for a while and I've never reached for it. And it's very interesting that some of these other ones are newer purchases and have received a lower rating than something like this that has been on my shelves forever and I've never picked it up. So it's an interesting side of the experiment. Like, I'm finding that I'm intrigued in thrillers that have been on my shelves for ages, which is a really nice thing. So this got an 8, prioritized. The next one I have here is Death and Heels by Kitty Murphy. This says Dublin Drag Mystery Series, so I believe there's more than this one book. And we follow Fee McKinney is full of nerves as the gorgeous Maybe, aka her best friend Robin, takes to the stage for her dazzling debut at a drag club Trash. But Maybe is dazzling. That is until local queen Eve Lapoons her performance and ruins the show. So when Eve turns up dead later that night, face down in the gutter of a rain-soaked Dublin street, the timing is awfully suspicious. I seen this. This and Home were two books I received while I was at Granite Noir, and I believe this is going to be a fun time. I When the author talked, they talked very fun. There was a very fun talk they did, which made me excited to delve into their writing. We then have Death and Heels by Kitty Murphy, and I found this first chapter fine. For a thriller, not so much. Like, the first chapter was fun because in it we follow Fee and Robin, who go to a nightclub called Trash, which is where the queens reign. And it was a fun first chapter. It was really good, but not a chapter to get me hooked on a thriller. It didn't have that instant pull that a first chapter in a thriller normally does have. I felt like it kind of lost steam after the prologue. So this is going to stay at 5 because I already knew what happened in the first chapter from the synopsis, and it didn't have that hook quite where I wanted it to be. So unfortunately, this is going to stay at 5. But I'm still excited to get to this. I'm still excited to get to all of them, but this is just lower priority now. Next, here we have The Sisters by Claire Douglas. And this says, after a tragic accident, still haunted by her twin sister's death, Abby is making a fresh start in Bath. But when she meets siblings B and Ben, she is quickly drawn into their privileged and unsettling circle. When one sister lies, she must protect her at all costs. When the truth outs, will either sister survive? I got this secondhand at charity shop. Sounds good. Um, yeah, let's give it a try. Next, we have The Sisters by Claire Douglas, and I was quite surprised. Again, in the similar vein to The Shadow Man, I didn't know how I was going to get on with this. It's been on my shelf for a long time. I did actually get this one secondhand, and in this, we follow Abby, who lost her sister, Lucy. They all used to live in London in a flat together. And when her sister died, she's now moved to Bath and is trying to start a new life. But she keeps seeing her sister everywhere, and everyone looks like her sister. So when she meets this girl on the street that's handing out flyers that looks like her sister, she decides to take one. And I take it she's going to go into their world, and that's how she meets the people that are mentioned in the synopsis. But at the end of the first chapter, she pretty much says that she killed her sister, and I was like, oh damn, okay, that's not in the synopsis. I gave this a 7 on intrigue because it gave more than the synopsis. And also that ending line, like, I killed my sister, before hitting into chapter two, definitely hooked me. So this is higher than I thought it would be, which I'm so hyped that this experiment is turning out, that some of the thrillers that have been on my TBR forever are now getting looked at in a new light. We then have The Twins by LV Matthews. I've seen this author, Granite Noir, also. This was not last year, but the year before, and I still haven't read it. I have, however, read her 2023 release, which I really enjoyed. So this one is two sisters, an intense bond, a bit of rivalry. Margot is solitary live-in nanny for an upper-class Kensington family. Cora is a dancer on the cusp of a big break, living hand-to-mouth in cramped London flat. Different though they are, an unspeakable childhood incident haunts them both. When the terrible secret comes to light, they are pitted against each other in a race for survival. Sounds good, and I really enjoyed her writing with the new release that I read, so I'm hoping when I return to this, I will enjoy it just as much. Let's see where this lands. Next, we have The Twins by LV Matthews. I gave this a 5. Now, I'm going off the basis that all of these are fives to begin with, because I need to at least be halfway interested in them to have bought them. Now, I read from this author previously, so I do have hopes that the rest of the book will be great. Unfortunately, the first chapter just follows Margot, one of the twins, who is a nanny for like a elite 1% family, and she's like living the life as their nanny. There wasn't much to it. It didn't give me much more than what I already knew. So unfortunately, the intrigue is still staying the same. Next year, we have The Jigsaw Man by Nadine Matheson, and I believe this is about a serial killer. When bodies start washing up along the banks of the river Thames, D.I. Henley fears it is the work of Peter Oliver, the notorious jigsaw killer, but it can't be him. Olivier is already behind bars, and Henry was the one who put him there. Cat and mouse game with a serial killer and an FBI agent, a DI, a detective. Um, this is giving me Criminal Minds vibes. So let's see if the first chapter does the same. We have The Jigsaw Man by Nadine Matheson. I really enjoyed this first chapter. In the prologue, we followed a bunch of random characters just finding body parts, and it was creepy and gross and done exactly what it was intended to do, get you interested. I just got a lot of sunlight coming through that window. I hope this doesn't throw off the video, but if it does, hi. I cannot control the weather, even though it'd be pretty cool if I could. Anyways, in the first chapter, we follow the Inspector Henley, who is going to lead up this investigation. There's breadcrumbs throughout this first chapter of maybe an attack she experienced on a previous case, which I take it is going to be the Jigsaw Man case. And this is her first foray back into the crime scene side of things. I was highly interested in this. This got an 8 on intrigue. The prologue with everyone finding body parts and the first chapter with breadcrumbs about the past, it really pulled you in and made you want to know more. So we have another 8. Next here we have a thriller that I do not know if it's speculative or not. It is Platform 7 by Louise Doughty. And it says Platform 7 at 4 a.m. Petersburg Railway Station is deserted. The man crossing the covered walkway on the freezing November morning is confident he's alone. As he sits on the metal bench at the end of the platform, it is clear his choice is strategic. He's as far away from the night stuff as he can get. What the man doesn't realize is that he has company. Lisa Evans knows what he has decided. She knows what he is about to do as she tries and fails to stop him walking to the platform edge. No one is more desperate to understand what connects her to this man than Lisa Evans herself. After all, she was the first one of the two to die. Sounds more speculative than some of the thrillers on this list, so I will probably, hopefully, find out in the first chapter what kind of vibe it's going to be. Next, we have Platform 7 by Louise Doughty. This got a 5 simply because the first chapter was essentially the synopsis again. I already knew what was kind of happening because it was told to us in the synopsis. The only thing I didn't know was that the girl telling the story, I believe it's a girl, is already dead. So she's like a ghost kind of creeping about the platform, waiting for this man to die. The intrigue is there. It's still a five. I'm still interested, but I just didn't learn much new things to make me more hyped to pick this up than I already was. Next here, we have one that I picked up from a charity shop, an anonymous girl. I know this gets mixed reviews, but I believe this is about a woman who gets involved in a study, and the person that's running the study gets too close for comfort. And I've heard mixed things. So I'm interested to see where this falls on the list, considering I've heard mixed things and it's been on my TBR for a long time. The next book I have here is An Anonymous Girl by Greer Hendricks and Sarah Pekkanen. This was interesting enough. It did give what the synopsis gave, but we got a little bit more information. So we follow the main character, Jessica, who is it Jessica? Yeah, Jessica. We we follow Jessica as she is a makeup artist and she goes to do some makeup for these girls. This girl has a phone call voicemail thing that says she has an appointment for a psychology session. She gets $500 if she completes this. And Jessica hears this, hears that she's not going to go, and decides to chance her luck and go and try and get this appointment instead, so she can then receive the $500. This is interesting because in the synopsis, it doesn't tell you that it was like taken away from another student. It's also very interesting that the psychologist was just like, yeah, cool. We'll take a stranger as long as she fits the parameters. So I'm interested to know if this changes things. Like, would this have happened if the original girl Taylor was meant to go, or is it a Jessica thing? And how that plays out. So yeah, I'm very interested in this. It got a 7 and it's bumped its way up my list because I haven't heard the best things about this. So this was sitting at a 5. So for it to jump to a 7, considering I've heard very mixed reviews, is kind of impressive to me. And the final book I have here is The Hunting Wives by May Cobb, and I don't know what this is about. Sophie O'Neill left behind an envy-inspiring career and the stressful competitive life of the big city Chicago to settle down with her husband and young son in small Texas. It seems like the perfect life with a beautiful home in an idyllic rural community. But Sophie soon realizes that life is now too quiet and she's feeling bored and restless. When she meets Margot, then she meets Margot Banks, an alluring socialite who is part of an elite clique secretly known as the Hunting Wives. Sophie is completely drawn to Margot and swept up into her mysterious world of late night target practice and dangerous partying. As Sophie's curiosity gives way to full blown obsession, she slips further away from the safety of her family and deeper into the nest of vipers. I mean, this sounds like it's going to be like rich person drama, so let's find out. The Hunting Wives by Mary Cobb was an interesting first chapter. I read the prologue and the first chapter, and in this, we follow Sophie, who is kind of obsessed with the elusive Margot, that is a mum in her suburb that seems to have it all. And the stalkery aspect of the first chapter had me hooked. I also think that the rich people drama will come with jealousy and obsession, and I want to know who ends up dead because it's not made clear. So this got an 8 on intrigue, which is fairly bloody high. So yeah, I am excited to get to this one. And that is all I have for you for this video. I am going to throw on screen right here all of the ratings grouped. So I did have nothing under a 5. So nothing dropped below my original like baseline rating as to why these books were on my shelf. If they dropped lower than a 5, I maybe would have DNF'd. Not DNF'd, on hold, because then I'm like, well, there's not much interest there in the first place. So, but nothing dropped below a 5, which is great. So I'm going to have on the screens the books that I had for 6, 7, 8, and 9. I also didn't have a 10, which is interesting because nothing hooked me like so much. Well, you know what? I suppose Pretty Girls could be a 10 because I meant to have read the first chapter for this video, ended up reading the whole goddamn book. So I suppose I did have 110. And then, yeah, we're going to go with that. So on screen will be my ratings and the books that are in these categories. And obviously, as I said, 5 is least interested, and 10 is most interested. So I am very excited by this graphic because it's not something that I expected. I didn't really expect it to look like this. I probably would have changed a few things if I hadn't read the first chapter of these books. I think if I hadn't read the first chapter, they would sit very differently on this graphic. But it's so interesting to me that it managed to change everything I thought about these books. And I will be back. I probably will do maybe another follow-up video to this one because it's a very interesting idea. I might do another genre. If there's a genre specific that you would like me to try, leave it, comment down below, and I may give this another try. But it's so nice now because I can put these books back on my shelves with the ones that are 8 and 9 sitting full view, ready to be read. So I'm very happy about that. So that is all I have for you today. Thank you so very much for watching. Remember to stay safe, happy, and healthy, and I will see you next time. Bye.